Every landlord you talk to has an opinion about Section 8. Most of those opinions, they're wrong. Not slightly off, completely wrong. And because veterans tend to listen to other vets, bad information spreads fast in this community. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what Section 8 actually is and what it actually costs you and why disciplined operators are quietly using it to build some of the most stable cash flow in residential real estate today. If you're looking for no hype, execution focused real estate content built for veterans and first responders and serious investors, do me a favor, hit the subscribe right now and turn on that notification bell. I do new videos every week, no filler, no BS. I'm Bud Evans, 35-year military veteran, 13 years in law enforcement, former mayor of Cinnaminson, New Jersey. I'm an active real estate investor in single family and small multifamily properties. I mentor veterans, first responders, and others building wealth through real estate, and I founded a low-cost property management company built for investors by investors like you. Let me tell you what I hear constantly. Section 8 tenants are going to trash my property. The government bureaucracy is a nightmare. Inspections are impossible to pass. The rent is below market value. You're going to lose control of your own asset. You're going to spend more time managing the program than managing the property. Hey, you want to stay away from that. Look, I've heard every version of that argument from landlords at investor meetups, from guys on forums. Reddit sucks. From veterans who swear that they know someone who got burned, and here's what I've learned after years of doing this. Most of those people making those arguments, they never actually participated in the program. They're repeating a story that somebody else told them. And that story is costing them stable government-backed rental income every single month. Here's the reality. Section 8, formerly called the Housing Choice Voucher Program, is a federally backed program administered by Public Housing Authority. It exists to help low-income households afford housing in the private market. The way it works is this. A qualified tenant holds a voucher. They find a property that meets the program's housing quality standards, the HQS. The housing authority pays a portion of the rent directly to the landlord every single month. The tenant pays the remainder out of pocket, and sometimes the tenant pays nothing. The direct payment from the housing authority is a government check. It doesn't bounce. It doesn't disappear because your tenant had a hard month. It doesn't evaporate because someone else lost a job or had an emergency. It posts to your account on a predictable schedule regardless of what's happening in your tenant's life. For a veteran investor who understands operational discipline and values predictability, that structure should sound familiar. That's not chaos, it's a system, and systems are something that we as veterans know how to work with. Now let me address these myths one at a time because each one deserves a direct answer. Myth 1 is that Section 8 tenants will destroy your property. This one gets repeated the most, and it really has the least factual support. Tenant behavior is a function of screening, not voucher status. The Housing Choice Voucher Program does not screen tenants for you. You have to do that yourself. It never claimed to. That's your job as the landlord. If you place a tenant without running their credit, checking their rental history, and verifying their income and calling prior landlords, you're going to have problems. That's true with Section 8 tenants, but it's equally true with market rate tenants. Landlords who skip the screening and then blame the program are making an operational error and calling it a policy program when it's actually their problem. Disciplined landlords who screen Section 8 applicants the same way they screen everyone else report tenant quality that's comparable or better than their market rate units. Why? Because Section 8 voucher holders have something significant to lose. If they damage your property or get evicted for cause or violate their lease in a material way, they could lose their voucher. That voucher sometimes took years to get. That is leverage that you do not have with a standard market rate tenant who can simply move on to the next unit down the street. Myth 2, the rent is below market value. This one is outdated and it really depends entirely on your market. Section 8 payment standards are set by local housing authorities based on fair market rents, FMR, which are calculated annually by HUD. At huduser.gov, you can check. And in many markets, particularly in areas where affordable housing is scarce and voucher demand is high, Section 8 payment standards are at or very close to market rate. In some markets, they're actually exceeding what a typical market rate tenant would pay for a comparable unit. So before you accept the below market argument as fact, look up the current payment standards for your specific county or metro area. You can look them up by zip code on huduser.gov. Your local housing authority publishes these numbers. They're public. Go look them up. And then compare them with similar units in your market are actually rented for. You may be surprised. And if there is a gap, factor in what reliable government-backed income on the other side of that gap is actually worth to your cash flow stability. Myth 3, the inspections are impossible to pass. This one gets me. This myth usually comes from landlords who bought properties with deferred maintenance and then blamed the inspector when the unit failed. The HQS, or Housing Quality Standard Inspection, is not a white glove assessment. It checks for safety and habitability. If only you had a checklist to go by, right? Well, here it is. Working smoke detectors, no exposed wiring, adequate heat, no lead paint hazards in pre-1978 properties, functional plumbing, structurally sound conditions, doors and windows that open and close property and lock. If your property fails inspection, it needed repairs anyway. The inspection didn't create the problem, it just identified them. A well-maintained property passes the HQS inspection, period. Myth 4, the bureaucracy makes it not worth it. Look, there's paperwork involved. There is an inspection process. There is a specific lease structure with a housing assistance payment contract alongside your standard tenant lease. That's real. I'm not going to pretend that the administrative bureaucracy doesn't exist, but here's the question you need to ask yourself. Is the administrative overhead of the Section 8 program more or less burdensome than chasing a market rate tenant who stopped paying in month 4 of a 12-month lease? Or is it more difficult than a 3-month eviction process in a tenant-friendly jurisdiction? Is it harder than absorbing the month of vacancy while you find a replacement tenant? Most landlords who operate in the program correctly, the answer is no. The front-end administrative investment pays for itself in back-end payment stability. Look, if you're a veteran and you want to connect with other investors who are executing this strategy right now, I want to point you to the War Room with David Perret. Dave's a Marine vet who built a significant portfolio and runs one of the best communities for veteran real estate investors in the country. Real deal analysis, real feedback, real people who've already done what you're trying to do. That's a great resource. The link is in the description. And if you want to work through a specific situation one-on-one, go to budevans.com and book a one-off coaching call. I don't run a program. Now let me give you the execution framework for becoming a Section 8 landlord. Step 1, contact your local public housing authority before you buy anything. This step often gets skipped consistently, and it's the most important one. Every housing authority operates differently. Voucher availability, inspection timelines, payment standards, and landlord onboarding processes vary significantly by jurisdiction. Some housing authorities have backlogs of voucher holders actively looking for units. Some have wait lists on the landlord side. You need to know which situation you're going to be walking into before you own the property, not after. Call them, introduce yourself, ask who your point of contact is going to be, ask about the process, ask about current voucher demand, ask about inspection timelines. This conversation is going to cost you nothing, and it's going to tell you everything you need to know about whether a specific market is viable for the Section 8 strategy. Step 2, understand the payment standards for your target market. Pull the payment standards document from your local housing authority website before you evaluate any new specific property. Payment standards are going to be broken down by unit size, whether it's 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, etc. They're going to tell you the maximum subsidy that the housing authority will pay towards the rent in that jurisdiction. And if the property you're considering can't generate acceptable returns at the local payment standard, it's not the right property for the Section 8 strategy. So know those numbers before you fall in love with the deal. It shouldn't be emotional anyway. Step 3, buy or prepare a property that is going to pass the Housing Quality Standards Inspection, the HQS. You do not need a renovated showpiece. You need a safe, functional, well-maintained unit with working systems, no deferred maintenance that creates a safety hazard. Smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors where they're required, usually one on each floor. Adequate heat sources, no peeling paint. Pre-1978 properties without lead, without proper remediation. Clean and functional common areas in multifamily properties, or if you're buying specifically to attract Section 8 tenants, factor the cost of the inspection-ready condition into your purchase price negotiation. Step 4, market to voucher holders and screen at full standard. You're going to find Section 8 tenants the same way you find any other tenant, online listings, word of mouth. Some housing authorities are going to maintain a landlord registry and will refer voucher holders to you directly once you're enrolled. When applicants come to you, you screen them completely. Credit history, rental history, prior landlord references, employment and income verification, criminal background where your state law permits it. The voucher does not replace your screening process. It runs alongside it. And any landlord who tells you that they do not screen Section 8 applicants is a fool. If they don't do it the same as everybody else, operating with the discipline, they will eventually pay for it out of pocket. Step 5 here, execute the 2 contract structure correctly. Remember, Section 8 operates with 2 separate documents. The Housing Assistance Payment Contract, or your voucher, is between you and the housing authority. It defines the subsidy amount, the payment terms, and your obligations as a participating landlord. The lease is between you and the tenant. It governs the tenancy itself. Both documents need to be executed properly before the subsidy payment even begins. Read both, understand what you're agreeing to in each one of them. The HAP contract, in particular, defines what happens if the tenant violates their lease and what your inspection obligations are going forward and under what conditions the housing authority can terminate the voucher and the subsidy. Step 6, maintain your property and manage the relationship professionally here. Annual inspections are part of the program. Okay, the housing authority will re-inspect your unit each year. I go in 2 more times per year. Maintain the property properly and use the inspections as routine. Let the maintenance slide and it's going to become a problem. Treat your Section 8 tenants the same way you would treat any other tenant. Professionally, responsive, documented, every communication in writing. Driveway conversations don't happen, right? Every maintenance request logged and addressed. The fact that the government is partially funding the tenancy does not change your obligation as a landlord. It does not lower your standard. It means you are running a professional operation that happens to include a reliable payment partner like your local government. So here's your execution checklist. Use this as a decision tool before you move forward with the strategy. It's not for everybody. 1, call your local public housing authority and ask about voucher availability, landlord enrollment, inspection timelines, and current payment standards before you commit to a market or a property. Pull the payment standards document for your target area and confirm the numbers work for your investment goals before you actually evaluate a specific deal. Buy or prepare a property that's genuinely safe and well maintained. Do not buy a deferred maintenance nightmare and expect to pass an inspection without accounting for the repair costs up front. Screen every Section 8 applicant at the same standard you apply for market rate tenants. Credit, rental history, income references, no exceptions. Read both the housing assistance payment contract and the tenant lease before you sign either one. Understand your obligations in both documents. There's a reason that my tenants sign a 20-page lease with addendums. Build your management process around all your documentation. Every communication has to be in writing. Every maintenance request has to be logged. Every inspection has to be prepared for in advance. Run your annual inspection like scheduled maintenance routines, not a fire drill. Properties that are maintained consistently are going to pass without any drama. Evaluate your market honestly. Section 8 works well in areas with high rental demand and limited affordable housing supply. It works less well in markets where payment standards lag significantly behind the actual rents. Know in which situation you're actually in. Don't skip the front-end administrative work and expect the back end to run smoothly. The program rewards disciplined operators. It punishes landlords who try to shortcut the process. Have your SOPs set aside. Assess the strategy against your specific portfolio goals. Section 8 provides payment stability and reduced vacancy risk in exchange for administrative participation and ongoing inspection compliance. If that trade-off fits your ops, it's worth serious consideration. Look, if this video helped you out, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share this with your friends. I do new content every week for veterans and serious investors who want execution over entertainment. Thanks for watching. I'm Bud Evans. Aim high, execute fast. See you on the next one.